October change to the election required a new election project to be created. As part of this process, every tabulator had to be updated with the new election project. The first human error occurred when election officials didn't update all of the tabulator memory cards. The second human error occurred when election officials forgot to conduct the public logic and accuracy testing on the final election project. Both of these errors were compounded when the programmer of this election took specific steps to ensure that the original ballots from the September project that were already printed could be used in the tabulators not affected by the addition of the school board race. If all of the tabulators had been updated as per procedure, there wouldn't have been any error in the unofficial reporting. If public logic and accuracy testing had taken place, the error would have been caught when it should have been caught prior to the election. If steps weren't specifically taken to salvage the already printed ballots, the system would not have allowed election officials to upload memory cards, and the reporting error never would have occurred. Human mistakes happen, especially in busy election years when election officials work tirelessly through weekends and holidays for months on end, which is even more difficult in small counties where there is a lack of dedicated election staff. This year in particular, with the difficulties compounded by the pandemic, this is exactly why Canvas procedures exist, which of course, where this error was quickly identified and corrected. Because our systems in Michigan use paper ballots, the accuracy of the tabulation machines can be proven by hand counts and audits. As the Michigan Secretary of State Office has already announced, this week, the Bureau of Elections in Antrim County will conduct a hand count of all ballots cast in the presidential election. This will verify that our system counted votes accurately. Those making unfounded allegations against Dominion are selective in their expressed concern.
Unvalid?
For example, they ignore that in several key battleground states, the president got more votes on Dominion systems than in other jurisdictions. Some of the requested recount sites, such as Philadelphia and Milwaukee, were not even Dominion customers at all. I will close by reminding everyone that all Dominion machines in battleground states produce voter verifiable paper ballots and records for review. These paper ballots for every vote cast are preserved and secured by the local election officials and are overseen by representatives from both parties. If there was any manipulation of the system, the paper ballots would not match the machine totals. Moreover, if unauthorized votes were somehow added to the count, those numbers would not match the canvassing numbers. As one example, the recent hand count in Georgia of 5 million votes matched our voting machines tally perfectly, showing that our machines counted accurately. I was asked recently what I thought about the Georgia hand count, and my reaction is always one of enthusiasm. A hand count is the most certain way of proving that our systems work. We welcome recounts because they prove the value of our systems. This indisputable fact is a key redundancy of our voting process that will undoubtedly continue to serve as the basis for truth and transparency in the 2020 election and beyond. I appreciate the opportunity to testify at this official hearing under oath about our company and how we worked in the 2020 elections. We have yet to see our critics make their allegations under oath, as I'm doing here today, or to bring any real, independent, fact-based evidence forward.
Then why did you hide after the election?
I'm happy to take your question.
Thank you, Mr. Polis. I'd like to start with
What's up, Jocko?
some questions regarding the Antrim situation, if I may. And I'd like to have a better understanding of how exactly the error occurred. And so, and what I want to specifically drive at is your statement about how if the logic and error test?
Logic inaccuracy test.
Logic and accuracy test. If that had been run, that this would have been caught. And so, is it correct to state that the error that occurred in the unofficial results didn't occur at the tabulators, but occurred when the information was taken to the centralized location and uploaded off of the memory cards that were in the tabulators?
Ronnie, get
Is that
off.
correct?
Thank you, Chair McBroom. So the first thing that I will say is my information is we did not, Dominion did not support Antrim County. We did not program their election. We don't have a copy of their database.
What's up, Vito?
We don't have any copies of
Ronnie.
what happened there.
Ate.
But what I do know, I will walk through. So from my understanding, the county originally signed off, finalized, and tested their programming. And I believe that they did a public logic accuracy test, but I believe they did it in September after the original programming. Once that was completed, my best guess at this time is that they sent their ballots off to be printed. At some point in October, they were required to add a contest on ballots that I believe affected 3 of their 18 tabulators. I believe it was a school board contest. New programming was provided to the county, along with instructions to update all 18 of their tabulators. This is where the first human error occurred. Antrim is a small county, as you know, in the Upper Peninsula, and election officials forgot to update all of their 18 tabulators' memory cards. This type of human error is mitigated when the counties can afford to arrange for on-site support, for example, but as my understanding was, there wasn't any on-site technical support in Antrim County. This type of human error, I should point out, of election programming happens from time to time, and it's the entire purpose of why we have public logic and accuracy testing. Because this process, which is a requirement in states including Michigan, the test entails zeroing every tabulator that's going to be used in an election. Officials in front of public view feed a known test deck of ballots into the tabulator. Once they're done that, they close the poll, they print the results tape, they upload the results into the database, and then they ensure the results that are being reported are in fact the expected results. It's specifically designed to be used in a public forum. So at the conclusion of this process, once it's verified, the tabulators then are re-zeroed, sealed, and made ready for election deployment. So performing that step would have caught the first human mistake, but this step was unfortunately missed, which is the second error. If those two are not even enough, because those two errors, which happened one after another, were compounded by the way the election update was programmed. During the October programming update, the contracting firm used by Antrim took care to program the new tabulation files to allow Antrim to salvage the original ballots that were already printed, except for the ballots affecting the new school board race, which I believe were 3 tabulators. This is the only reason why any memory card that was mistakenly not updated could be uploaded for the unofficial tally.
Thank you. So what I'm trying to get at specifically, Mr. Polis, is how do we verify whether the mistake is made in the programming at the tabulator versus at where the memory cards are taken to? And so, and tell me, during the logic and accuracy, is that done? I mean, I know you run the stack of ballots through and then you print a slip up on the tabulator to make sure that it accurately counted the ballots. But is there a time then when the results are taken from the tabulator to the central location to make sure that that transmittance of the data is also done accurately too?
Best practice involves reviewing the results that are uploaded via the memory cards and comparing them to the results tape that are printed immediately upon polls close. And again, multiple copies posted publicly in the polling location and distributed to any poll watchers. And you verify that the results tape matches what has been uploaded. In this particular case, the first 2 errors happened, and because the system was told to accept memory cards from either one of those 2 projects, it allowed an upload from the September programming, even though it was expecting a memory card from the October programming.
Okay. And does the software that those cards are taken to, at the central location, or if the data is transmitted via modem, the software at the other end that's receiving those data points, is that your software or is that someone else's software?
Yes, the software that resides at the central location is our software.
Okay. And then is it possible for that data to also be transmitted to other types of programming such as Excel spreadsheets?
So that system is designed as a standalone system, but those results obviously have to be transmitted to a central location at the state level and reported to the media. So there are several ways that election officials can generate results and reports. One of them is Excel, one is through PDF, etc. So that the unofficial results can be exported to the state, to the media, etc.
Thank you. Other members of the committee want to ask questions? I'll share the microphone here.
There's not very many people there, is there?
Lucido, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Polis. Are you still CEO of Dominion?
I am.
And Dominion stands for what? Is this just a name you gave it, or is there any?
It doesn't stand for anything. It's just a name.
Okay. Dominion Voting Services has been around 18 years. 2002, you opened up in Toronto, Canada.
We were formally incorporated in January 2003 in Toronto, Canada.
You stood there for a couple of years and then moved the operations to Denver, Colorado.
We moved our headquarters to Denver in 2010.
You're currently doing business in 28 states that you operate here in the United States.
Correct.
In those 28 states,
What's going on, Leon?
approximately, well, let me go to this. Let's just deal with Michigan right now. You have about, you have a contract for each and every one of these units that you place in service in these counties in which the votes are taken?
I'm not familiar off the top of my head, but I believe we have a contract with the state, and then we very well may have separate contracts with counties. But I believe our original contract was with the state entity.
So the state of Michigan gave you a contract to go ahead and use, and I'm using your words now, what you said is, we supply machines. We do not run elections. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Those were your words, and the tabulator does the count for the votes.
Oh, so they're trying to blame the tabulators now.
That's correct.
And that can be checked by hand counting the paper ballots. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So the software that you claim and the supplying of the machines, and this is very technical, and I need to get this so that we can clear up any ambiguity. Did you train individuals on what they're supposed to do when you put these machines or the software in service?
No, I haven't beat down, but I'm not giving up.
I was not involved, but that's typically what we do. We train county officials on how to use software.
Is there a manual that somebody who has, like, let's say, authority over the individuals that are working for them in the
Come on, get off my computer.
clerk's office can reference when
Sorry,
there's
my cat's messing around
need
again.
to see how the training goes?
To the best of my knowledge, all of our manuals and user guides were submitted to the state on the original state contract as part of that process, and distributed from the state to the counties. And I know that in many situations, the counties will generate their
get off
own
my computer.
user guides and manuals based on our materials.
So that I'm clear, when you enter into an agreement with the state of Michigan to supply your equipment, your machines, and your software, there has to be some kind of way to make sure that they're running the machinery correctly and the software correctly.
There's people
Would that
from
be fair?
Biden in here.
That's correct.
All right. Do you charge a fee in the contract? And I don't really want to know how much it's none of my business, but do you charge a fee for that training?
If there was a fee, it would have been part of the original upfront purchase.
How long ago?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't give you a chance to finish.
No, and on a county by county basis, counties are free to make their own determinations. Sometimes they get supplemental training either from state officials. Sometimes they get supplemental training as the need presents itself to the counties. That's not really something I'm expert on.
I understand, and I only want to limit your testimony to what you know. If you don't know, I'd like you to, and Mr. Chairman, through the chair, I would like you to give us at least to have your lawyer who's there present with you today, write down what it is that we're looking for so that we can supplement your testimony and get the information from your office. Is that a problem?
Oh, of course.
Thank you. So, because what I'm looking at is I buy something, I want to know how to use it properly so that I don't have it malfunction and or misfire or whatever the case may be. And I'm not real familiar with a tabulator nor the software that runs the same. But if these machines that are supplied to the counties to go ahead and make, or to the communities that are doing these tabulations of the votes, that software is unique to that machine. It's proprietary, right?
The software that resides on our tabulators is proprietary,
Yeah.
and that is once we certify at the federal level. That's
I'm a
when
friend of Biden.
we
That's
lose
funny.
control of the software. It is transmitted from
You gotta go.
the independent
I hate
certification
Biden.
agencies to the counties, and then it transfers into the county's chain of custody.
Is the memory cards that you put into the machinery, is that locked down that the memory card can't be manipulated and or distorted?
Right. So
So if I wanted to get the memory card out of the machine, would
I'm
that
sorry?
give, if we had to remove a memory card from the machine, could that
Yeah.
be possible?
Yeah, we've seen it on
Sure.
video.
You have to break the seal during the election. I'm assuming you're asking during the election.
During the election, correct?
Yeah. So as I stated, when the machines are delivered to a polling location, the compartments by which the memory cards are inserted into the machine are both locked and sealed. We actually have 3 memory cards, and one of them is designed to be removed at the end of election day. So
I think the guy on the right is the
audit on
CEO
the
of
source code
Dominion.
of the machine. Sorry, not the source code, but part of the log on the tabulator when the tabulator door is open and when the cards are removed. And it is designed that it does not come out of the machine until the polls are closed. The seal is broken by the local poll workers, and the locks are unlocked.
So that we got a correct record, there's 3 memory cards. One is designed to be removed, the other 2, I'm assuming, based on what you're saying, but I don't want to assume anything, are not to be removed.
So one of them is designed not to be removed, and that is internal. And 2 of them are removable, and one of them is designed not to be removed, just in case somebody makes any allegation on the card that was removed, even though it's securely transferred by the local election workers, oftentimes accompanied by a sheriff. There's even, and by the way, they're encrypted and signed.
Yeah, but when the
But even
election
on the
workers are frauds
allegation,
and
you could
Democrats,
compare it to the second memory
do whatever
card
they want.
that is a redundant copy that is designed to be continue to be locked and sealed in the tabulator.
If I tell you that somebody removed a memory card where they shouldn't have, would you have backup software or alarm systems that would go off to report that type of behavior in your proprietary machine and software?
So if an allegation was made that one of the memory cards was removed, and let's just, for the sake of your example, say that none of the poll officials noticed it.
Yeah,
or
they
the
actually found
bipartisan
somebody
poll
for
watchers
Dominion.
noticed it, or any voter noticed it. There would be a record of it.
What's up, Trump?
And we also have the other card
he is the
that's
CEO of Dominion.
in the machine, and they would be off, and the machine will not let you continue if one of them has been removed.
Do you have any validation or way to validate whether a memory card was removed from these machines? Have you started your validation? I know that there was 3, I was reading some stuff, and it says that you do something before the election process, either your company or the clerk, during the election process, there's something done regarding, and then after the election process. Have you guys started, your company started to do an after-election audit as to what happened and look into what these allegations, because you so eloquently gave your testimony, and I appreciate that, trying to clear up any inconsistencies or ambiguity. Tell me, have you started now at this point, and have you completed your after the election process?
Right. So I will point back to what I mentioned in my opening statement. We do not run elections. We are not accountable for running elections. And as such,
Yeah, don't forget
we
to share
do not
this.
run
In fact, I
the
gotta share
test
it myself.
before.
The heck happened there? That's not me. Hold on, let me check.
Test done
There we
before
go.
the election. Many jurisdictions will repeat that test after canvass is completed, and they will do a logic and accuracy test post-election. And then some jurisdictions take it a step further and do exactly what you are talking about, but they don't contract with us to do it. The whole idea is that we shouldn't be the ones doing it. The federal system that was put in place after the 2000 presidential election, with the creation of the EAC as a bipartisan commission that does their own accreditation of separate third-party labs that are accredited. The whole purpose of that is that no voter or stakeholder has to blindly trust any technology provider. So the test that you are asking is part of the local officials' process and best done by an EAC accredited lab. We'll say we have several customers, especially in light of the baseless allegations that have been levied our way in the recent weeks.
You guys can't hear it anymore?
A variety of these EAC accredited independent test labs to do exactly as you say. And their checks are, there's various number of checks that they perform. And I'm certainly no expert at what they do, but the way I think of it is they are verifying that the software that was run in the election was unchanged, that it is in fact the same certified software. They can run a variety of forensic tools to ensure that what you're describing, if it did happen, they would know it happened. And they do that all independent of us.
How do I know as a voter, Mr. Polis, that I didn't have any irregularity of the software being manipulated? How could I be sure of that?
Right, that's a great question. So the fact that somebody has made an allegation is cause enough, in my opinion, to do a hand count audit and recount. And that has been requested in a number of our jurisdictions. And at the end of the day, you have to remember that the ballot box was secure and empty at the beginning of the day. And at the end of the day, there was a number of ballots that each voter deposited into that sealed and locked ballot box. Those voters and their eligibility were verified by the local poll workers under the watch of the local poll workers at bipartisan poll watchers. And those
You mean the
ballots
local Democrat
have
poll workers?
They've been under secure control of the poll workers. So even the allegation in an environment of, like we're seeing right now, which is unprecedented, in my opinion, it's exactly why the Michigan Secretary of State's office is working with Antrim County to perform that hand count.
Did you provide any training films? I know that you said training manuals, booklets, I think you called them. Any training films that would physically give a video to or a link to a training film so that the individuals would learn properly how to utilize your machine and your software?
Sir, we provide a variety of training tools. I'm the original contract in the state of Michigan, I believe, was in 2017. We regularly rely on a host of different training techniques and design it in collaboration with the end customer, be it the county or state.
So that would have been with Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. That would have been the one you would have contracted with? She was the
I'll have to-
Secretary of State in
I'll have to get back.
2017.
I don't recall who.
I think it's
specifically
2017. Is
Sorry to interrupt.
I don't recall.
Benson's term began in 19.
19? Okay, 2019. The chair cleared it up. Could you tell me about the process, though, because you're still acting as a CEO, even though you just indicated, I think in your testimony, the majority of the company was sold?
Yes, in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, it was sold to
this was your
Nancy
company
Pelosi.
that you, from birth, basically. I'm going to say that you're the one that, did you design the software?
Not my birth, Senator. Company's birth.
Oh, could you tell me, did you design the software that went for this? Or do you have, I mean, was it you or was it somebody else that designed the software, how to manipulate meaning the vote count and tally to make sure that there was consistency and to make sure that there was credibility?
Well, let me just be clear. We don't manipulate anything. All our software does is if you look at a tabulator for your home county, actually, I'm not sure if you're using Dominion in Antrim County, let's say. Our tabulator software looks at the paper ballot, and we integrate the number of black pixels in the oval corresponding to a candidate's name. And that is designed in a way that the machine is interpreting voter intent the same way that a human being would. And so it's designed to be very objective. There's no manipulation of any kind. And yes, I do have knowledge of the source code that developed that.
The warranty, and I use the word warranty, I don't know another word, maybe you can help me, about post-elections to ensure the security and the trust of the election.
I sure hope so,
Is there
Jerry.
some kind of warranty that goes with that for the state when they purchase this unit and software? That it's going to act in a manner consistent with you, your state?
There goes their sound again. At least they have the subtitles. That is not me. I don't think it's me. Let's try and play something else real quick. Oh, maybe it is me. What did you guys do? Hold on, let me have my speakers. Sorry,
the night of the election? Senator, you mentioned a few things. First of all, in terms of the affidavits and any pertaining to the accuracy of the tabulation, I am not aware of any that have been found to be credible, certainly none that I've seen, and I don't know of any judge that have found any of those allegations credible. With specific regards to whether or not it's normal to have on-site technical support from the tabulation companies, it depends. It's at the sole discretion of the county. And in the case of the TCF Center, we did have on-site technical support there. They are not part of running the election, and they're expressly there to answer any questions from the election officials whose job it is to run the election.
They do
Is there a separate contract that was with consideration that was utilized as a result of coming to that election at TCF here in the state of Michigan? I'm not aware of it off the top of my head. That's something we can get back to you on. Is it, like I said, not normal? Is it customary? Let's use that word, not normal. Is there any other counties in the state other than Wayne that had assistance through Dominion being there? And do you recall, based on Michigan has been spotlighted and shown throughout the country, do you recall of any other county of the 83 counties in the state? I don't know. I don't think so. Okay. So the only one that you do recall is that there was support staff there from Dominion, correct? In the Wayne County, correct. And as I said,
I got no sound. My dogs did something underneath my computer. No, it's me, guys. Sorry, hold on. My dogs did something. Move, guys. Move. Move, Jackie. Move, Panda. Move. Come on, move. Don't cross. Move.
Have you seen this in your 18 years?
There we go.
Where
Yeah.
people go, they do, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, my dogs are
Did
messing
you
with
have any in
it.
Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, or Texas?
No, it's my dogs, guys. Sorry.
Sorry, one at a time. Georgia, yes. Pennsylvania, yes.
Is that better?
Wisconsin, I don't know. Texas, I don't know. What was it? Did you mention
you go.
another one?
Michigan, but you gave us an answer.
God, get out from underneath my desk now. You're messing up. Come on, move, please. Come on.
That was received from the individuals that were at the TCF
I think they
Center
keep unplugging it.
on behalf of Dominion and working on behest of Wayne County.
All right, you guys gotta move now, please. Come on, Panda, move. Panda, come on, move. Move, Jackie. Move, Papa. Come on, you guys are messing up my sound here. Move. Move. You gotta move, Papa. Here's the board again. Oh yeah, they unplugged it.
If there's no software that validates it other than a hand count, is there any other way to avoid a hand count from the software and the hardware that you put in service to validate this is the vote? This is true, accurate representation.
All right, sorry guys, that's it.
Well, first off, there is a very well documented system, and it starts at the EAC level long before any system is sold, with third-party testing and accreditation.
All right, Jackie, you can go
In
back.
this
Go lay
testing
down again.
center, these independent labs that are trained on election process, they go through every single
Is it
line
still
of
too
source
loud?
code, line by line, every facet of every feature of the machine, under a lot of different permutations.
I got a new
and
mic coming in
combinations of
tomorrow,
elections.
I think, or Thursday.
In addition to that, before that system it can be sold, for example, in the state of Michigan, it gets certified after the federal certification, once again, by the state authorities in Michigan. So to say that there's not a there's a very well documented system that is extremely accurate.
I appreciate
The accuracy.
Wait a minute, I guess I'm asking something else. Even though they have what they do with automobiles, they go through a check test. Like, they check everything, check the boxes, but if we want like access control, only authorized individuals are running the machine. And I understand what you said. We don't run elections. Encrypted end to end so that no one can manipulate the data. And endpoints that hold the data, that those endpoints weren't breached. Could you be specific on what systems do you have on your software that can ensure that access control, encryption end to end, and endpoints that hold the data were not breached?
Fair question. So, as part of the federal certification guidelines, there's very well and rigorously documented security requirements of the media where votes are recorded and translated. I think to your question in terms of a check after a car rolls off the assembly line. So our source code remains unchanged, and that is exactly what post-election activities should verify after every election. They check that the hash code is exactly the same as the certification hash code, and that gives the local officials the knowledge that the source code was exactly the source code that was certified and tested. The check of the actual election, because the programming, and this is not in the source code of the system, but this is now how you program an election because the candidates change, the contests change from election to election. This is what's done at every election. This is what the logic inaccuracy testing done in a public forum allows you to verify that it's correct and complete.
The ranked choice voting, is it the clerk that flips it or Dominion when they do the ranked choice voting?
There's no flipping of any votes at any time on any system. Ranked choice voting is something completely different that was not used in Michigan.
Okay. The last one then is the post-election activity should be verified. That was your statement. What post-election activity should be verified in our state?
My personal recommendation,
Yes, sir.
in which I've seen work in other states, is an authorized independent test authority accredited by the EAC should be doing exactly what you are looking for and verifying that the system was exactly used in a certified manner.
Did you make that recommendation to anyone here in the state at this time?
The state is the one that came up with it in the first place years ago, and I think that they've used it. I have to double check on the first time it was used, but it's not. This is a common practice.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll probably
Because
have
of
some
the common
follow-up
practice of the
after
minutes,
I
right?
know that the other senators have questions.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lucido. And I just want to have a quick follow-up to one of the Vice Chair's questions, and then we'll take a little break, if that's all right with you, Mr. Polis.
Of course.
The Vice Chair was just mentioning and you
Ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice voting, and you've mentioned a couple of times in your opening and now that that's not an option that Antrim County had, but it is part of your programming, right? It is something that the software itself offers as an option that's used in some place.
Ranked choice voting is a requirement in some jurisdictions. It was not used anywhere in Michigan, and this is something that an independent test authority can easily verify. As can any election official. You need look no further than just the paper ballots, but there is a whole audit that an independent test authority can use to look and answer that definitively.
Is it possible for that option to be simply turned on accidentally, even or intentionally, but even accidentally?
No.
Is it possible that Antrim could turn that on?
No, the answer is no. And even if they could do that, which they can't, it would not go undetected. And as I said, an independent test authority accredited by the EAC could easily determine that for you.
Could you, and I don't want to do a lot of these all day where we get into the real technical weeds, but on this one, could
Sure.
you share with us why you believe that's impossible? What are the technical specifications that make that impossible for it to accidentally be turned on?
Well, you don't need to look any further than the actual paper ballot. So if you knew what a ranked choice voting ballot looked like, you could see that there's different columns for each candidate where voters can select their first preference and then the second and third and so on. As I said, it's not certified for use in Michigan. It's not allowed for use in Michigan. It's not something that election officials can just turn on. And even if they could, it's easily detectable.
Yeah, until you guys come in and hide it.
I'd like us to take a 10-minute recess, and we'll come back. Polis, thank you. 10 minutes.
Great, thank you.
All right, guys. So they're gonna be gone on a 10-minute break. What do you guys want to talk about? What's going on with everybody? Let's see what's going on in this world that maybe we can show you for that 10 minutes while they're doing stuff. Let's see. There's a stop the steal. Here we go.
To break the ice.
You alluded to a kind of multi-phase plan with Stop the Steal, and you also alluded that coming up is, it sounds like, plans for the primary, everybody needs transparency. Do you anticipate Stop the Steal being a permanent institution, standing up for election integrity in general, or?
Shoot, sorry, I'm trying to get that off there.
Thanks for the question. Stop the Steal was not intended to be permanent.
is at my company's account and Alex's company account. We pay for flights and hotels for activists who fly into Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia. We were in 7 states within 24 hours. And, you know, the media tried to rake me over the coals. Oh, he's spinning it out.
I met him on Saturday. No, Friday night.
Create some AstroTurf group like Carl Rose or Frank Luntz or the rest of these GOP grifters? No. So we're catching our legs. We're building the plane as we're flying, but we intend to be a permanent institution. In 2022, we are going to primary everyone who has said anything awful about exercising our constitutional options. It is abhorrent. There are people who look like me. There are people in my family who could not vote, who were being. And to think that the GOP would drudge up some of those old rooms and deny voters of knowing whether or not their votes were voted counted transparently, I stand against that. That's un-American. That turns back all the advancements we've made inside of this country. So we do have a multifaceted approach, and I'll let Ed and Alex also buoy on this answer. But one, we have activists all across Georgia right now fighting inside of that runoff. Alex is down there. He came up here for this. Scott Kressler is a great activist. He is down there. Brandon Straka and his whole walkaway team, which is part of the Stop the Steal Coalition, they are down there fighting for those 2 Senate seats to save America from what we're told will be socialism. I actually think it's a lot worse. And we also are planning this primary challenge, but we're also going to take on the RNC. State conventions are coming up, and the RNC chairs, the RNC committeemen, and the RNC committee women who do not stand with this president or stop.
He does, doesn't he? Look like 70 Davis Jr. Here you go. Let's see the puppies.
Thank you, Ali. You know, those of you that know me,
So these are. I got sent these on Saturday.
The most extraordinary.
I believe this is my
conservative
puppy.
leaders in our nation, but also political organizers. And
That's him
she
right
started
there.
the only pro-life group that's within the Republican Party, within a major party, to hold the pro-life.
So this is going to be my new puppy right there,
We're
guys.
Republicans. We're not leaving the party. We're not going for the third party. We're not going anywhere. What we're saying is this president has done more for this country on the rule of law, on the Constitution, on what we need, on things like holding the line on immigration, on standing up to China. We're not going to say this is the most important issue in our lifetimes and then say on January 21st we're moving on to have a tea party. People are having Christmas parties. The consultant class of the GOP are having Christmas parties now, paid for by the funds raised to help support Kavanaugh and Barrett and others. Where's the funds raised to support this president in this fight? And what Phyllis Schlafly taught us is you have to know politics and campaigns and understand the buttons that matter to people, and we want to see progress. And frankly, I'm of this mind that if the men and women
This is for sure him. That's the day he opened up his eyes.
Now, I'm not asking where they were for the last 5 weeks. I'm saying thank you for being here, and I won't hold it against you.
I think
But
this
I am
is him.
saying, and
Wait.
I'm warning, this is a warning.
No.
If you're in Georgia, you should vote. I'm not one of these people who says don't
This
vote.
is him.
But my warning to the Republican Party
Either one, I don't
is
care.
that when
They're
Donald
both
Trump
cute.
is not on the ballot, it is very difficult to motivate people to vote anyway. But when they see the only people fighting for him are a ragtag band of brothers and sisters, and they say to themselves, now you tell me, trust me, I will be a great Senate majority. We will do things that you really love. They're looking up and they're saying, I don't believe you.
Is the audio bad again?
That's a warning to the Republicans. I hope they take the warning. I hope that the senators in Georgia, the current senators, do like Senator Lawson did and say, hey, I'm with this president. But we also need the others to step up. And there's lots of great ones. As we said, in the House, it's great leadership. Members that are saying, hey, we want to be on this side. But this is a reality, and it's not going away. Here's my last warning on this, and I hope it's a takeaway. I was a Tea Party founder. The establishment beat the Tea Party by outweighting us, by co-opting or corrupting some of our leaders, but they didn't have a visionary leader, and they didn't have the vision of America first. And we are not.
Audio is muffled now?
Cannot wait out the American people on this
How about
and
this?
think it will all turn out fine. That's what President Trump knows. That's what these patriots know. And I hear people say behind me, that's what the grassroots knows. So you abandon the grassroots at your own peril, and we're warning on that. So come and join us. We'll forget when you got here. There's no date of expiration or entrance, but come join us because there's a lot more at stake.
it'll happen in Georgia. It'll happen in 2020. It'll happen in every election between. Virginia's supposed to be a good year. If you don't win the presidency, no one will vote in Virginia after they saw what happened. Republicans, they won't vote. They don't feel like we were fought for by the party or by others. So it's a big moment. Alex, you probably have.
All right, thank you, Alfred. Sorry about that.
Well, primary 22 is going to be very expensive for the establishment, and that's just the bottom line. I've talked to billionaires from Texas, from California, to Florida, where these people are only Republicans basically because they support our president. They love our president, and they understand that he brought tens of millions of new voters to our party.
Still horrible?
These voters, he's got 74, 75 million votes. It's 12 million more than he got in 2016. And they didn't come because of the work of the conservative judges being appointed by Mitch McConnell, okay? They came because he was American first, he put workers first, and he felt like, these people felt like he was the only politician that ever cared about them, because maybe
That's
it's
worse.
after the election, because I know how this great city works, and I've gotten to know a lot of these consultants over the years. But I tweeted on probably the 5th of November, I said that there's already political consultants sitting with their politicians and their clients in their offices and on the Hill saying, hey, this is how you can capitalize if President Trump doesn't win. And so these people are already thinking, oh my gosh, I could be the next leader, I can do this, I can do that. And they gave up early on. You saw that with Langford, you saw that with Cornyn, you saw that with a lot of folks. And, Mitch McConnell, he's not on the ballot next year, but he is a leader of the party. And all the senators that are being soft on him right now that are up for re-election, they're going to turn to Mitch and his war chest for money. And we're going to make that guy spend some serious cash if he does not start fighting. And so I urge them, please fight, because you're going to be pretty poor if you don't. So we're looking forward to the next question.
There's a lot of Americans right now, I think conservatives even, who are concerned about the institutions of this country. They no longer believe the electoral process works. They no longer believe the systems of justice work. When they see people getting denied,
I'm gonna have a much better mic very
votes,
soon.
They think the system is broken and replaceable. They're not even going to cast their votes sometimes, maybe in the Senate races. To people who are losing votes, what would you tell them?
I would say to stop the steal is here. As Ed said, we are Republicans. It's our party. We're not creating a third party. We'll shove the bad ones out. We're not accelerationists. That's a term that's being used online for identitarians and people who have given up hope. There is always hope. That's why Stop the Steal is a spiritual movement. We teamed up with the Jericho March to bring hundreds of thousands of people here. General Flynn gave a fiery speech. The president flew Marine One over 3 times, looping around, to acknowledge that our hope is in Christ, our hope is in God, and our hope is in the founding documents, the Constitution that we must continue to exhaust. So I would say Stop the Steal is here to fill the gap until the Republicans are ready to take it back from us. Because I've got a business to get back to. And other people got a business to go back to. And so I would say keep hope. If you believe that the president won, all he needs is for you to act. That's it. We don't have to worry about the politics. We don't have to actually worry about the Republican Party. All we need to do is act, which is why we put bodies in the streets. And so keep that hope. Keep that faith. Representative Kern?
Thank you. Just a couple comments. I was involved in the Jericho March in Arizona. It was a fantastic event, just on a whim. Over 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people showed up, and they marched around the Capitol, and they prayed for our state and our nation. And I want to tell you that what Eli just said is that, there is a people rising up in this nation. Let's say your name. Ollie, sorry. There is it's 3 letters. Sorry. There is a people rising up. And they are not your average voter that we've been so accustomed to in this nation. And they will fight. And they're asking me, Anthony, how do I get involved? What do I do? I'm very
The only
concerned.
mic I have right now is
And
the
I'll tell you
computer
who's
mic.
really
I've
going
tried other ones.
this
And
next
Frank,
election going to win this fight is the grandmothers.
let me try this other one real quick.
Why?
Again.
Because they care about their little grandkids. And when I hear a grandmother out there, and when I talk to them, when I'm knocking on their door or talking to them at a meeting, there is a passion there.
Let me
Because
find
we
it.
do not want socialist
Brownie.
garbage taught to our children. We do not want America turning into Venezuela. So I say to every patriot out there, every American out there, whatever side of the aisle you're on, get involved, We've got to keep this country because where we go. And I do want to say that 2 weeks ago I mentioned it about the election integrity hearing, and I want to give a shout out to Representative Mark Finchin in Arizona. He did a fantastic job. He's pushing the envelope, and there's a lot of great. Thank you. There's a lot of great legislators in Arizona. Yesterday they had a Senate hearing. We're going to start. There was an affidavit that went out to subpoena some of these Dominion voting systems. And I'll tell you, I hope it's not too late, but let's keep pushing. I'm looking at the Electoral College and what's going to happen on January 6th and calling on U.S. Congress to do their job again. But there's a lot of good fighters. Thank you. Yeah.
Declaration for Maricopa County for a full forensic analysis on the Dominion software systems. Do you think that 33 days is
How about that? Is this better?
possibly the time to mess with the machines? So I know you're not an IT
Expert. Right.
but can a forensic audit with some of the data on these computers that have been wiped clean or tampered with after the election? And what do you think these subpoenas could mean if the evidence is
That's worse, isn't it?
And that's a great question. I'll just kind of
Senate committee will return to order.
To me, it's a little.
Shit, all right, guys, let's go to the other
For
one.
the forensic audit, what we're going to find is
Patience.
whatever which way this goes.
guess
My
I'd like
fear
to
is that evidence, because we're
Come
not
back
going
to
to
my last
stop.
question about this ranked, how do we call it, ranked voting?
Ranked choice
choice
voting.
Yes, thank you. So what I'm really trying to find out from you is the functional inhibitions in the software. You say that it's not, that they can't access it, but what does that mean? I mean, do they see a button on the screen, but it's grayed out, so it doesn't work? What would it take to turn it on? I mean, is that something you guys turn on when you sell the software to Michigan? How is that, how is it inhibited from being accidentally or purposefully turned on?
Well, that's correct, Senator. So it is not installed. When the election officials took possession of their system, whenever that was back in 2017-18, they would have had to separately install a module that would be part of the record. That again, as I've said, any independent testing authority could verify this, so you don't necessarily have to take my word or even a poll official's word for it. One of the claims that I think I've seen that may be related to this is the allegation of fractions in our reporting software. As I said in my opening statement, there is no fractional voting. That's just not a feature of our system. And any audit of our database would show this. We don't allocate fractions, and certainly don't do any switching or deletion of these votes.
So when the ranked voting occurs in the states that do allow that, is there a fractional vote count that comes out in those situations, or is it still whole numbers?
No, so the report that I happened to see in was, I think, another hearing in your state, and it was attributed to our system. I can tell you that's false, and I haven't seen any report of where that report came from. It looked like it was just created on PowerPoint. I can tell you that does not come from any report on our system. And that's something any one of your counties that use our system could verify for you. In the states that do use ranked choice voting, it is a separately installed module with separate trading, and the telltale sign of whether or not it's on is you look at the ballots. So beside Senator McBroom's name on a ballot, there might be, if it's a vote for 5, there might be 4 different columns. So I could vote for you as my first choice or my second choice, third or fourth choice. The rules on this vary in the jurisdictions that use them. But again, it is not allowed for use in Michigan. It has nothing to do with Michigan. It wasn't used for Michigan, and that's something that can be easily and independently verified.
So on with the fractional voting issue, since you bring this up, and I would have one of the other committee members had.
Yeah, I'm still confused on this
This-
fractional voting. What
I've
about you guys?
seen a page that appears to be a screenshot that demonstrates fractional votes. And at the bottom of it, it says Dominion software. Is there any screen in your software that would allow that to happen? And if not, then where did this come from?
Absolutely not. It does not come from our software. Our reports typically don't have from Dominion software on the bottom of our reports. Our reports can be obtained
are they
through the
saying it's like a
Secretary of
fraud?
State's office or counties that use our systems. And as to the
Can you guys hear me talking?
all important question of where that screenshot came from, to me it looked like it was an actual PowerPoint report. Your guess is as good as mine. All I can tell you is it did not come from our system.
I'm going to go back slightly, and it's
Thank
not
you,
that
Jerry.
I won't come back to fractional voting, but I'm going to mull over what you said, and perhaps we'll come back from a different angle. But you were mentioning how in the post-election, your software, the machinery is audited by the EAC or potentially by a third party, correct?
You know, the federal process specifically requires it to be thoroughly tested, including source code review, accuracy test, volume test, environmental test. It's very comprehensive. The manual is thousands of pages of law, of the requirements.
Why doesn't Dominion do some of its own auditing of the systems at the completion of the election afterwards? I mean, do you come to any of the counties, take back machinery or software and reevaluate how it performed yourself?
That's a great question, Senator. The whole system is designed so that no voter needs to blindly trust any individual company, that doesn't need to blindly trust any individual technology or any individual poll worker. So the role of auditing and testing prior and after the system is best not done by the company that provides the actual technology in the first place. It is best done by the election officials whose accountability is to run the elections under their total control, and best done by independently accredited experts from a
This guy
bipartisan
again.
federal committee that reviews everything from competence on the technical and the procedural side as it pertains to elections. And so that's why we don't audit our own software. Now, to the question of do we test our software? Absolutely, we test our software very, very thoroughly, but that happens completely independent of any customer jurisdiction or the certification lab. This is generally something that we do very extensively prior to submission
What's up,
to
American?
the federal government for federal certification.
How would your company know then if there were issues with the interface ability, with customer satisfaction in regards to the performance of the software? What do you do to receive feedback on how well the program works and how well it interfaces?
Well, it's an iterative exercise through continued conversations, collaborative in nature with our customers that use our software and systems.
And now turning my attention, and I'm sorry to kind of bounce around here a little bit on you.
No worries.
When we look at the Antrim report that's recently come out, there's specifically notes regarding the absence of logging within the steps of the adjudicated ballots. You went through for us what the adjudicated ballot is and what that entails, but
Sorry guys, on Central TV
you
sending you
mentioned there's
messages
both
right
an
now.
automated and a non-automated system for adjudication. Which one is it that Antrim County had, and where are these logs that the report that came yesterday says are missing?
There's no automated process for adjudication. The two different systems are one that is manual in nature, that requires local bipartisan adjudication committees to remake new paper ballots based on mistakes that they agree on that a voter who is voting absentee have made. And the second is the same process, but instead of remaking a paper ballot, they make their selection and their determination electronically that is attached to the original image. And so Antrim County used the manual process. They do not license the digital adjudication software, and we know for a fact that they could not have used it because they did not record absentee ballot images which is a prerequisite to use a digital adjudication.
So in my township, and I'm part of a small township, and by the way, just for the record, because I'll get in trouble later if I don't correct you, Antrim County is downstate, not in the UP. Just it's close to the UP, but it's downstate.
Fair enough. As you might have surmised, Senator, I have not been to Antrim County. It's on my to-do list.
It's a beautiful place. I hope you'll get the chance. Regardless, so in my precinct, I don't see any computers there at all. I mean, there's one tabulator. And so does that mean then that if they need to do adjudication of ballots there for an absentee ballots, they're going to have a manual process then, correct?
That's correct.
If a place has a digital process, they would have to have a computer there that interfaced with the tabulator?
That's correct.